We have left now the mines. A mine is just an enemy, but it has the ability to detonate once you enter a certain radius. That's the difference. We have two types of mines. We have the standard enemy mine, which you usually can use with any mover, but preferably you'll probably use it with a track mover. And we have an enemy chain mine, which is a little bit different. Okay, so let's create an empty game object and start here. So this one will be the mine, and just to always remember that this one needs to be an enemy, and let's add the mine script. So inside agent, enemy mine. And to make it look like a mine, I'm going to look for a mine visual in the prefabs mines. Let's use this one, make it a little smaller, and that's the mine. I'm going to give it a health of 5, no collision damage, and we'll examine these radiuses now. Okay. I'm going to create two materials. They will be just very temporary to show you something. Let's call this one green. Make it transparent material. And so it's just a transparent green material. And let's make this one red. We'll just see in a second how we plan on using them. So we have this detonation radius. This radius means that once the player goes inside this area, the mine will start the detonation timer. Afterwards, it will explode. And the detonation timer, we can give it 2 seconds, which means that after 2 seconds, where the player enters this area, the mine will explode. And the explosion radius, let's give it, just adjust it. Yeah, this explosion radius means that if the player is inside this area, it will be damaged by the explosion. Let's give a fairly large value for the explosion. This one, a value of 15, which means the player will be destroyed once if it gets affected by it. Sorry. And the damage percentage, if you checked it, means that if the player is just around the edge, it will be barely damaged, and if it's near the mine, it will bear the full brunt of the explosion. So I'm going to disable it for now, and to make it more clear, I'm going to create a cylinder. Rotate it. And give this one the red material we've just created, and scale this one. And so basically these two cylinders I've just created are just to show you the explosion radius and detonation radius. So I'll make sure they're connected to the mine, and I'll disable it, and I'll go ahead, and we already have an organized wave, so I'm just going to put 4 mines, 5 seconds in between each, and I'll put this one in the enemies layer and connect it. But before that, we must always remember that the waves are generated by the level controller. So I'm going to connect this wave over here, and let's start playing. But of course, the mine doesn't have any mover, so it's spawned but does not move. To show you that a mine doesn't need a track mover, we're just going to start with a typical directional mover. Shmup. Here we'll find it inside agent, enemy, mover, direction mover, and move it downwards at a relatively slow speed 2, and let's add a circle collider so that we could hit the mine. And while we're at it, why don't we add the sound effects for the 2 sound effects, one once the mine explodes and one for the detonation. And we could also create a flash effects. And give it this mine, target render. And instead of the taking health damage, I'm going to use it for detonation start. So this is relatively new. And right here, detonation. And let's give it 2 seconds so that you'd see how it works. And finally, just to go over the objects control script again, which is located in Shmup baby agent component objects control. I'm going to add a destroy script, and I'll find an explosion over here, maybe this one. Let's enable it, and unparent, because it's the same thing we went over, because the agent will be destroyed and we need to unparent anything we've enabled so that we could see it, and it needs to be disabled because we enable it over here. And the explosion effects has the animated sprite effects script on destroy. Okay, and let's play. So if you noticed, once we've entered the green zone, you've heard the sound and you saw the flash effects. We'll go again. So it means the detonation started and the mine explodes. Let's see what happens if we are inside the explosion radius. We are destroyed. Again. So that's the very basics of a mine, but to make it more interesting, I'm going to remove the directional mover over here and add a track mover. Find this one in Shmup baby agent enemy mover, track mover. So inside of track mover, I'm going to make it to make the target the player. So it means that it will be it will start following the player. You could choose also random enemy or any agent you put. And inside, let's say, just so that we could see the gizmos, I'm going to disable these gizmos, and we don't need these cylinders anymore. We already understand how it's working. I'm going to draw these gizmos, and this is the detect radius. The detect radius needs to be fairly large. This detect radius is different from the detonation radius, is that it just means when the mine will start, or anything with the track mover will start following the player or the target option you have. So it starts very slow. Let's make a start speed of 3, for example, and the end speed of 8. So it starts slow once the player is far away, and becomes faster once it's near the center. And the normal speed is just a speed where the mine is on an idle speed. And let's play and see how it goes. So it already follows the player, but maybe it's too slow. So I'm just going to increase the speed. Maybe it's too fast. Let's try. And going to make the radius bigger. I couldn't get away from it. So I'm going to the mine again, and I'm going to reduce the detonation radius and the explosion radius and make it slower. Let's play. So it feels more like a mine now. We'll have the second one. And the third one. And that's basically the standard enemy mine. We only have the track mover. The enemy chain mine. Just one last thing before we head to it. You see, it explodes because I've added a circle collider to the mine. I'm going to duplicate this one and name it mine chain. I'm going to add inside Shmup baby agent enemy chain mine. But once we've added this one, we have to correct all the references that we've changed. I'm going to remove the track mover because an enemy chain mine does not need a track mover. Perhaps we need to make a better diagram where we could show that the enemy chain mine doesn't need any movers. But anyway, the enemies, you can theoretically have them without any movers anyway. So and this enemy mine, the script, let's move this one upward and reconnect the sound effects because we've duplicated this one, and the flash effects. Oops. And the objects control script. So we have everything connected back again. We just need to correct the settings. So this is the same thing, and give it 2 seconds, and explosion radius, and let's make the damage of this one slightly small. And that's all clear. The active chance is a special property where if you have 2 chain mines and one hits the other, because you can push it because it's a rigid body, it has a force where it just jumps in. That force just throws it away, for a lack of a better analogy. So, and this one, the detect radius, for where it starts moving towards the player. So this one replaces the track mover. Inside the enemy chain mine, you don't have a track mover. You just modify these settings over here, and it functions sort of like a track mover, but it uses physics. And a normal force of 5. Chain force is the one used with the active chance once it's pushed. I know some of these settings are, slightly overwhelming, but you can always use the prefabs or just try them on your own, and you see it's actually quite fun. I'm just going to give it the same force as a normal force, and this one rotation speed, and the speed threshold has to do with the active chance. Alright, you can also check the documentation for further details. And for this one, I'm going to put it actually in a random wave, so that we get to see a chance how they push each other. Remove component. I'm going to put 30 of them with a random time of 2.8 and a random rotation, and we have a collider. Okay. Oops. We forgot to actually change them in the level controller. So this way we have the random wave. We might get a chance to explain a property about the chain mine. We'll try it now. So you see, these mines can be pushed around, and once they hit other mines, they'll also be pushed far away. So I know that the chain mine sometimes are quite fun if you have plenty of them. Just one very quick property: the chain mine has a collider, and if it hits anything with a collider, it interacts with it. So if you notice in the beginning here, let's just load in. Some of the mines just get pushed because they hit the collider of this object. We usually in any background object like this one, for example, you don't really need any collider. We just added them so that we could upload our asset to the asset store. One of the creators asked for it, but you could just remove it, and maybe in the next update we have a talk with them and remove them and play. So you see they are now functioning normally. So just in case, if you see any unexpected behavior with a chain mine, usually it's a collider thing, that it's colliding with something else, and you could change that in the project settings, which layers collide with anything. You know, just saying, you probably wouldn't have to do it. And with this is the mines tutorial. And just one thing before we finish, I'm going to delete those two so that we can keep our scene clean, and we would have finished all the basic functions. We would just need to show you perhaps the infinite level controller, which is, I think, yes, we only shown the finite level. Now we just have to finish the infinite level controller, and maybe a quick tutorial on how to build the game and the main menu. But we are just waiting for an update that should finish maybe in a week or two, and once that's done, we'll get to it. And thank you for watching. Some of these tutorials will be modified, changed. We will continue to update this package. So, you know, just if you have any questions or anything, you know, feel free to share them on the thread or just email us. Thank you.